Well, it's that time and it's the right place. And welcome everybody to another Canyon City Energy Franchise Committee meeting. Let's see, I am here. Carol is not, Doug is not. Kirk is here, Emily here, Kathy's here, Steve Andrews here, John Vihos here, and Ryan's here. And do we have anybody online, Ryan? Do you know?
Nope, just us.
Just us today, okay. And so we're continuing to work on our document. Is there anything anybody else have? Or something that we should discuss here before we jump into into our recommendation document?
Based on John Neal's comment last time about my recommendations, I revised point number 2, and I can give you guys copies. I know that you're not going to include the copy in your whatever you're doing, but I thought I would update it. So
Is this number 2 on your?
yeah, so here's
Okay,
copies.
it's where, okay. Oh, I didn't see that.
Thank you. Can you send that at least to me
And
electronically?
electronically, sure, I'll do it now.
You got enough? Great.
Yeah.
Number 2, so you revised number 2.
Yeah, mostly the first paragraph and then one comment on this first bullet under 2.
Okay. Okay,
No, and I have nothing to add other than that.
okay, we'll put that aside for just a second.
Sure.
And but we will talk about that because we do have to decide what we want to do with Steve's recommendations. But so everybody, you got a chance to look at and I was thinking, I don't know, what do you think, Kirk, about putting we've got the section in the charter also that talks about let's see, got that right here. Utility rate cases.
Okay, what?
So that's, so the question is, before you decide, but since we included what the franchise requirements are, I was thinking maybe we should include the language on the utility rate cases. What do you guys think about that?
What's the charter section on the article?
1316.
That was the one for intervening with the
Correct,
utilities that have franchises.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was just thinking that might make our document a little bit more complete because we do talk about, there's 2 places in there we talk about what our charter directs us to do. And so I was thinking maybe we could just,
Yeah, there'd be no problem of adding
Yeah,
that in.
and you could say something, although there's not currently a franchise with all utilities, it still behooves us to follow the ordinance as much as possible. And then
Well, we can look at that in number 7.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
That's-
And you could say something about just, you're still a qualified participant, right? You're
Right.
still an interested party.
sure. I think that, okay. Well, let's talk, since we're on that one, let's talk about number 7. Okay, the current code requires city to intervene in rate cases. Do you see if any provider has a franchise? The city should make a policy decision concerning 1316. For non-franchise utilities, the city should seek legal advice on how to handle non-franchise utilities in which the city does not receive a revenue stream. And I'm good with both of those, but what I would, I would tend to broaden it a little bit rather than limiting it to non-franchise utilities, but to seek legal advice on the obligations imposed by the section. Is how I would do it, but essentially I agree with the bullet. That's just really kind of a nit, and then from there we can, just make a comments that the language is included at the end of the document or something.
So I want to be sure I'm understanding what you're suggesting. Are you adding language or substituting? 'Cause
Well,
I don't want to lose the meaning of that last sentence.
so legal, so the obligations imposed, that's the question, what are the obligations? And that's what we're saying, is that we should seek legal advice on what those obligations are. Okay, and that to you includes how to handle non-franchised utilities. But I think that comes out in the wash if you seek legal advice on the obligations of that section.
What I'm not wanting to lose is
Mhm.
that in addition to the obligations of that section, the city might want to do
Gotcha.
something in the
Gotcha.
case of non.
Understand.
Right,
Gotcha.
yeah, because I'm
I don't
thinking that, yeah, there's. Not franchise money coming in to pay for legal advice, but I think. The city could lose a lot more if we're not involved, just because of the issues that could come up regarding. Utility. Issues at either the State House or the PUC.
Maybe another way to say it is that, in this circumstance, after all the work that we've done as a committee and that the city has done. Why would we not interview in a black rate? I just can't imagine that we would say, oh, well, it's okay.
Yeah, that's true too.
Seems like that's part of the work that the city's.
And then in that case. To the broader issue is not limited to just Black Hills. If there's something else that were to come up. That affects the city, then is there a way to include that too? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Well, so on the issue of should we intervene in every Black Hills rate case? The charter says gives us certain specific conditions under which we should intervene. Says that we have an obligation to evaluate and make a determination. About what, if there's any triggers in the rate case, and if there are triggers that the charter tells us to intervene. Okay, but as I'm not necessarily in favor of we should intervene in every rate case. Just because we don't like the rates, because there's other drivers to the rates than Black Hills decisions. Including some of the legislation passed this last time. Up in Denver, that directs Black Hills to axe the PAGs. Good grief, how are we gonna replace that generation? Good grief, it's whatever it is, it's gonna cost us.
I don't think legislation passed to get rid of the tags. Did it?
No, it didn't. They amended that.
I
They
know.
did.
still made it more, a little bit more difficult, but at least it's on. Somewhat.
It's on shaky ground.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that they tied that discount rate to long-term fuel contract or fuel prices. In terms of, the percentage that you use or the number that you use. I guess the long-term number is really going to be the driver. I mean, if it's a 10-year number, that's not going to be favorable to PAGs because. Gas prices have been historically low, but if you take a 40-year view of it, that's a much different story. So
anyway, I guess the discussion is on number 7 specifically.
Can I make a
Mhm.
suggestion?
Sure.
If we kept that last sentence, the city should seek legal advice on how to handle non-franchise utilities in which the city does not receive revenue stream. And review all obligations concerning chapter 1316.
Sure.
Something like
Sure.
that, so because that way it would. Get both to take a look at both of them,
And that's fine.
because
I'd be good with that.
is that all right, everybody?
Sure. And I understand your point that those are two separate things that.
Yeah, because that way it will be two separate things.
Mhm. Okay,
And then can someone send me the link for that 1316?
I can send it to you right now. Kurt.
Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll just put, like I said, C see note on 13 or,
see addendum or whatever.
yeah.
And then do we do that for? We don't, although we have it here, Article 10, do we specifically refer readers to that
And there's 3,
under number 3,
yeah,
see attached? Yeah, so just a similar note,
yeah, that's what I thought.
yeah. That'd be great. Any other comments or are we? Think we're good with what the recommendations are so far.
I wish it were stronger. I don't know how, but I wish that, I feel like, I see both sides. We don't have the money coming in, but I really feel that we need to not just seek advice from them, but make sure that it's okay to intervene without revenues flows. You see what I'm saying? Cause
Yeah.
it's kind of like we're leaving it up to Corey or Catherine to sit there and tell us, well, this is, but it seems to me as if we really need to have that ability to do that. So I don't know if I need to worry about it any further, or we'll just leave it
Would-
like this and we can discuss it then.
Would something like seek legal advice and make a policy decision?
Yeah, it's kind
Because-
of like I want to recommend it, but figure out a way to maintain that.
Because one way or the other, you get the legal advice and then you'll determine what you want to do with that legal advice in some type of
Okay.
policy. If you-
I know what you're saying.
Or we could make it stronger and just say that the committee recommends that we interview in rate cases.
That's kind of what I'd like to have.
I'm opposed to that recommendation. We will, for reasons that I've stated, I don't think it's a good policy to intervene in every rate case.
Oh,
I mean, we can spend a lot of money doing. What the heck are we spending? public-
Appropriate.
Well, that's what 16 is supposed to tell us,
Okay.
right? You know,
But 16 doesn't cover this situation.
so that's a policy decision.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay,
We're all on the same page.
okay.
So, but per your language, I liked your language. Because it really is, it does put it in proper order first. So we seek legal advice and then make a policy decision.
Okay. Appropriate.
That's just assuming.
Yeah,
I was assuming that John wasn't.
Oh, come on.
That's all right. Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Any other comments on the document?
Should I include then we put that in, review all obligations concerning chapter 13 and review all obligations and make a policy decision. The same, similar verbiage there.
Sure.
I'll have to work with
and
it.
it's almost repetitive with that middle sentence, but maybe that's.
Okay, that's true too.
Well, but that, I would assume that because we're recommending a policy decision, and so that's that middle sentence that could come out there. Because that's the idea, recommend a policy decision concerning obligations and whether we're gonna intervene in all franchise cases.
So you're saying the city should make a policy decision? Well. Would the second sentence take out?
And yes, but make sure the idea is incorporated in that.
Yeah, just wordsmith it.
So really, the sequence would be determine legal obligations. And make a policy decision.
Because then that would cover when and if and all that.
Sure.
Okay.
for both items.
Yeah. And I'm good with broadening it. The recommendation that the city make a policy decision about intervening in all electric rate, Black Hills.
Yeah, I don't even need the word all,
Mhm.
appropriate rate cases, you know.
You know, and that's what you do in the policy decision.
Okay.
You know, Is you start slicing and dicing.
Okay,
So but the idea is to make a policy decision, setting the bar at wherever you want it to be,
okay,
all appropriate. You know, only the things that are triggered by our existing charter or whatever.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
I got it.
That's what you do with policy.
Yeah, well, and then everyone, maybe how far do we want to delve in and, you
Mhm.
know, or we make our first comments and then back out, you know,
Right.
so yeah, I get you.
Got that?
Yeah, I'll play around with it a little bit.
Okay.
Probably have to look at the
In any other wordsmithing we need to do?
On the second page on
Mhm.
assistance. It's not a big thing, but on number 2. We could say the Energy Franchise Committee should continue to assist the city. We could just add something in there about guidance from council. I don't know quite how to word that, but just so that it's not implying as a recommendation to council, it's not implying that we're just gonna go do whatever kind of research we want to do, that somehow we need to put city council guidance in there.
So. How about this? The Energy Franchise Committee should continue to assist the city as guided by council, or the Energy Franchise Committee, as guided by council, should continue. Does that capture what you're thinking?
I like that, yeah.
Okay, say this again.
So,
First sentence, Energy Franchise Committee, comma, as directed by city council. Should continue. Is guided, that's. is guided.
yeah, continue to everything.
Yes, yeah. Okay, just that.
Yeah, just that
Guided by
phrase.
city council right after the.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, got that.
anything else?
And I did include a couple things that you had mentioned, Ryan, after the meeting.
Yeah.
About the surveys and any third-party reports. Because like I said, we want to make the committee so that it's beneficial for staff that we can do things. that
Assisting and
help staff out.
reviewing, yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, the main priority. We don't want to be a burden. We want to try to add value to the whole process.
So do we have language in here, for example, if the city proceeds with getting a third party analysis of the distribution system? Do we have language in here that makes it clear that this committee would assist in reviewing things like that?
Well,
Maybe any third party reports that.
That's where I.
let's, well, that's what it says. Right? Number 2. Isn't that what that says?
I think it's vague.
It says third party reports.
Yes, it does, but I don't think it says as clearly as maybe we would want.
I think how it's written, if we had a third party report, then we would look at that, but it doesn't really address that. Do we assist with helping to determine what the criteria is to develop for a third party? You know,
Is that what you're thinking, Emma?
It's not. I think it's a committee decision on that. I just want to be sure that we make it clear enough. Because the third party report could be something we get out of the library or something. It's a little general.
Well, so
We want.
We're
hands,
talking-
damn it.
we're talking about ongoing assistance of the Energy Franchise Committee. And we say it should not be dissolved. And we say it should continue at council's direction. To assist the city. With all of those things. And I think that says it. Because the
Yeah, make recommendations.
Well, maybe just say, any third party reports conducted for the city.
or in a
But
contract.
report's not the right word there.
But it maybe reports or studies commissioned by the city.
That might be good.
so how about that? Instead of third party reports, say studies commissioned by the city. I don't think we have to say what studies because
Yeah,
it is
because
in
third party
terms.
reports could be something that was done by somebody else for somebody else. And so this way we bring it back in to say if we were to commission something ourselves, I think that's a good point.
Sure, and it's within the context of the energy committee.
And the city commission.
Studies or reports.
Oh, studies. Studies.
Any studies commissioned by the city.
That'll work.
That circle will go up here.
Okay. Any other suggested changes?
We'll add 13, 16 at the bottom.
Sure. That'll be good. Okay, so now I got an email from Doug. And let me read it to y'all. He said. I stand by my recommendation to stay with our present provider at this point. City council or an appointed committee and Black Hills. Work on an agreement with verifiable objectives which accomplish goals beneficial to the citizens. And also allow Black Hills to operate with a reasonable margin of profit. Companies must show a profit in order to stay in existence and still provide a service. Some may not appreciate Black Hills business plans, but that is not for us to consider. What is important in the end is that whichever way is chosen, the supplier provides service that is both reliable and affordable, maybe not for all, but for most. The system today allows for financial assistance for those that need it. Like I have expressed before, if the system is in disrepair, Black Hills bring it up to acceptable standards. We don't always need a Cadillac, Chevy will work. And that was from Doug. So I thought I would share that with y'all. So, but this is, now I think we're on kind of to the next topic. Is that if we have individual committee members that differ in what and what our recommendations are, how should we handle that? And that also, to me, that umbrella also encompasses what Steve has prepared for us and how we want to deal with that as a committee. And what I would suggest is that if Doug is agreeable that we can just have this whole blurb as kind of an alternate view or something like that. And that we also include, and I would hopefully you've had time to take a look at this. John, that this is there anything in here and Steve's latest that
You know, I
Black Hills is?
kind of turned my attention to this for the current.
Yeah, I gotcha, I understand. Well, I was, but tell you what, why don't you, what I would suggest is that we also include Steve's report. Because I think it's valuable for council to hear another opinion, but that's predicated on Black Hills not having objections to particular statements or let me rephrase that Black Hills doesn't agree with the facts as presented.
Well, like I've seen in other studies, one consultant will say certain things and then the other will have an opportunity to say, no, that's not exactly right. So, you know, that's quite common to see.
Sure. Sure. So you don't have to tell us today.
Yep.
Okay, but if you would, that would be great. And then we'll figure out what to do from there.
Because I did add number 10 in the
Uh-huh.
very first one that said the city should gather and receive input from the community.
Mhm.
So that would fit right along with that, you know, we should figure out where we want to place it, if we want to place that before the you know, charter 10, article 10, you know, before those. You know, because that would flow, I think, with that. Or,
Sure.
you know, we could play around with that.
I'm good if you want to make a structural change there to say, continue to receive input and say, here's input. we
Yeah.
received from the committee,
Yeah.
From the community. Interested community.
Yeah. And Steve,
Uh,
I'd ask that you send that to me too.
I've already sent it to him.
Okay,
I
okay,
think we all got it.
okay.
That occurs to me in this, I don't know, if we need to add to our list of recommendations, but when the legislature passes new legislation, do we need to have something in here? Do we want to have something in here that we recommend that city council ask the city attorney for, you know, because the city attorney does this on a number of things, the legislation changes on anything affecting the city. And maybe it's good to have recommendations here to say we ask that the council request from the city attorney the analysis of the new legislation that comes along related to our energy.
Oh, we
Rather
always,
than just leaving it hanging, because like right now, as a city, we don't really know too much about the impact of Senate Bill 291 on us.
so there's a couple of different subjects there. One is that the attorneys may not be the appropriate people to do that. Because of expertise issues. When you're starting to deal with the guts of the PUC and how things happen and what legislative changes, what the implications and results of what those changes might be. It might be that council may want to seek, you know, the kind of third party or specialist legal opinions on what's going on. But as council members, we always have the ability to request that for any legislation, you know, to make a request through Ryan that, because they are on retainer, you know. So that's something that we always have the ability. Is that how you look at it too, Ryan? That council always has the council members individually always have the ability to say, hey, I would like to, here's a new thing the legislature has done, I'd like to understand the impact it has on the city. We also have other ways that happens through CML and things like that. too.
Well, and Action 22 is another good point because, you know, something that's going to affect them negatively could also affect the city negatively, where we can actually go in together. So there's that opportunity too.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the city gets multiple reports, you know, we get a report from CML and its lobbyists. We're members of EDCC, so if it's economic development related, we get a report from EDCC and their lobbyists. Action 22 is another one. The attorneys do provide memos on issues, changes in state legislation and issues that will affect us as one of their clients.
Sure.
We haven't had anything specific to energy, so I don't know, how they put those memos together, but
I mean, it might be just a simple adding of a few words in number 6. Yeah, and I mean, I would just say in regard to CML, they did not follow this issue.
mhm.
For whatever reason, they didn't follow.
There's so much legislation. I don't know that they can all
Yeah.
follow all.
I will just say, I don't have a definitive answer yet, but I have made a request to our government affairs folks to give us synopsis of legislation and how it's impacting customers. So I'm not suggesting that that's the gospel that you should read from, but I am suggesting that if they're available and willing, I would love to provide that both
Yeah.
to this committee.
Sure.
Because that's really, I think there's been so much, I've offered that, I've asked for both you and for Pueblo, if we could do that. I think that's really important, because there was a lot this year.
There was a lot this year, there sure was.
So maybe on number 6, that middle sentence, the city should monitor and follow up with Colorado Senate Bill 23-291 and seek city attorney guidance on any legislation that relates to electric utilities or something.
Yeah, because that kind of limits it. We may want to put in there as far as,
Rather than just the one bill.
not just the one
Maybe
bill.
do more next year.
Well, I'm sure they have something up their sleeve. And I don't even know, is it appropriate for us as a city to contact our local legislators and say, do you know what this is gonna do to us? And
You're,
just ask-
there's a big assumption in there.
Said give a rat's the two, don't they?
No, obviously, that they know.
Oh, I got you, okay.
Preferably, we're having that discussion before it gets passed.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, you know that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. The,
Another opportunity for our committee to educate them.
so what have you got on 6?
Well, the first sentence is the same, then the second sentence, the city should monitor and follow up with Colorado Senate Bill 23-291. And seek legal guidance on energy related issues.
Or that rather than energy related issues, maybe any new energy related legislation, since that's kind of the category.
Or even make it a little more broad to begin with by saying the city should monitor and follow up with Colorado legislative bills such as Senate Bill, whatever, and go from there.
Because the first sentence says, city should monitor development of state legislation.
Okay.
Stay abreast of current developments
Okay.
such as Colorado Bill,
I think that would make sense, and then not.
and then have another sentence in addition.
Or seek?
But I mean, that would be one sentence.
Mhm.
And then the next sentence would be. Okay, just keep it all in one sentence then.
No,
Not necessarily.
after 2391 period. But. Right,
Okay.
but then after that, to capture, I think, the thoughts that we're discussing on the table. That the city should seek, and I would say legal and other expert advice. On energy related legislation. Or something like that.
Energy related.
Legislation,
Good. And then that last sentence still. is appropriate.
Okay.
okay? Anything else? So what I think we should do is, Kirk, when you get the, when you get this revised, send it out, you can just go ahead and send it out to everybody. And then I think that we'll do probably like a thumbs up or a thumbs down via email. And say, yes, we're good to go with this.
Or,
or-
yeah, suggestion, let's just.
Mhm.
Okay. Then you could go ahead and send me information about.
So yes, I'll
You can
forward you
email
this
that.
email and
Okay. And
we
I'll-
can
you want me just to include his comments at the end?
just say this is a comment that the committee member wanted to include.
Okay.
And and it'll just be anonymous. We don't. you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure when we're talking to Council Douglas. Said that, you know. Which is fine, but keep it anonymous for the written part,
Sure.
okay?
And
And
it's input that we've received.
sure, and then we'll have Steve's document also, unless
And
Black
then
Hills has some. Unless we have to do some more stuff with it. but-
would you say just to accept Steve document like that, and if Block Hills has any type of response to include that in addition, or?
That would probably make it clear as far as source.
Well, let's the
Let's see what.
Black Hills was stating that there was a difference about factual matters last time. And that's what I want to make sure, that there's no difference on factual matters this time with these revisions. And would you like to do that then? Offer Black Hills an opportunity to for their view or
Statement.
a statement or something?
Yeah, it's kind of like,
I don't know, I just brought that up because I. saw
I
that.
understand, yeah, it's one of those I can understand. That they might.
You know what, here's what my thinking is that for this document. And we're talking about you, John.
You know, as I was walking out of it, this is probably the worst time to leave.
Yeah, but-
Oh, we got lots there.
So what I think, my personal approach to this is that if anybody wants to, you know, jump on and add something, you know, now's the time to do it, and we'll just, you know, Doug's statement can go through. Steve's statement can go through as long as there's not a difference over factual matters. And what we're discussing now is whether to offer Black Hills the opportunity to, you know, have a couple of paragraphs or something that they would like to say to council.
That.
Would the term perspective fit in anywhere?
Sure.
Is that what you could say, this is? You know,
These are
Steve,
perspectives.
These are perspectives
Mhm.
by other observers of the committee or something
Committee
like that.
members or
Committee members
interested
or
parties.
interested parties.
And just a reminder, we have 3 council members, so please send any comments to Kirk individually, not as a group.
Good point.
Sure.
That's hard to read, yeah.
How would you like our feedback to this and any like other, again? Would
Were
you
you
start
thinking
that
about feedback to what Steve?
Well, no, it was broadening it beyond that.
Okay, but-
I do want that feedback
Yeah,
if there's
yeah.
if there's still a difference.
Yeah.
Over factual matters. But then the broader suggestion is that we let Black Hills have provide a different perspective.
We could ask all. the utilities. I'm trying to make sure that we don't muddle what we're trying to do in the way of a committee recommendation council. You know, in other words,
Well,
Black Hills
well-
could always do that, but maybe it's not through this recommendation. Communication.
So
This
either
particular document.
from my perspective, either we let, you know, as we've discussed here, let it happen this way, or we just present our 2-page document. And I'm not in favor of that. I think that it's important. I mean, after all, we are saying that, hey, city, you should receive input. And so I think it's fair to let people have some input. I mean, this is not, you know, this discussion is gonna continue, and I think it's appropriate to for people that have been here to have a voice.
I don't think it'll in some respects, it technically could lessen the impact, but I think it's not a bad idea to include it. Because I think especially from the committee member and people that have sat in here
Mhm.
for a majority of what we've been doing, I think their perspectives
And-
are
Just as
important.
long as it's not pages and pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
it's gotta be.
Short and
Short,
sweet,
short and sweet.
but
In your comment of this is a bunch of bullshit, we don't.
No, I would say, I mean, I would very definitely commit to you that we would be respectful and, you know, any statement.
but what we probably should do, so we can take a look at that, and then. Perhaps we may have to have another meeting here to decide how we're gonna do this, but. What I think we should do though is, and I'm fine with this, and that's, Emily makes a good point that. These are our recommendations. And then. As separate documents with like just a one-page other perspectives. And then, and maybe even a note that these are not committee generated, but we felt that it was important to let other interested parties have a voice.
I've been in plenty of meetings. If you give too much information at once,
Mhm.
then all the attention might go to something else that really wasn't even why you're having the meeting. You know, it just,
Also, let's see,
you know, and I'm just throwing that out.
Sure.
I've seen that happen quite a bit in meetings. If you give too much information, then it tends to just go in other directions.
sure,
And then at the end of an hour or whatever, you say, well, did we even get anything in on what we were asking? And yet, I think that the decision then needs to be made on number 10 is when do you give the input at what time? You know, what's the appropriate time to get input from the community? That's just kind of my thought.
oh, we do have some specific times that we recommend input in the 1 through 9 above there. But you think that we should expand that then? Number 10,
I think that could be okay. It's just a matter of us determining, you know, when do you give the information? So that you're clear of what you're trying to say at one time.
so I think we're still talking about Black Hills input and what we're gonna do, and what I would say is that let's see what they say.
Okay.
And then we can make a decision about all three.
I have a suggestion, let me throw this out. If I were doing a presentation, I would start the other perspectives at the beginning. And then follow up and say, this is what we think. Those are different perspectives, but as the majority of the committee, this is what we feel should continue on from here. Get that out of the way first, so it's not the last thing they see or hear. But I don't know.
So you would have, if you did something like that, the way I foresee it, you would have two different documents. You'd have public input, and then you'd have recommendations from the committee.
Yep.
You know, something like that.
Is that
Well, that,
So,
I think the idea is to put two different documents.
definitely? And I guess, it's one of those that's gonna be sent out. It doesn't matter who reads what first, because it's gonna end up. I'm thinking of a public forum, and but this is gonna be read and not necessarily discussed first.
I'm good with that, but I still suggest that we see what Black Hills.
I agree.
And then get together, because it could change how we want to, include it. Or not.
yes,
I just want to throw in, John, I don't have an expectation about this. What I've submitted, other than you consider it. but I don't expect it to be in a document. I don't, there's no bar for me at that. When it comes to, what's acceptable in terms of what I've recommended and how you treat it.
Sure.
You've already met the bar as far as I'm concerned and you've
Great.
looked at it.
Great.
But if it doesn't show up in print anywhere, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And with what Steve said there, then if we just put what one of the comments was from one of our members, then that would
It's
be,
strictly
that
the
would be a
committee.
committee report.
I still like the idea of 2 documents, but it's still kind of wait and see. And I don't mind, hearing from Steve is essentially somebody very interested and pretty knowledgeable in this area, and
Expert advice.
it wouldn't hurt to. I'm really in favor of all voices being before council, and we want our voice as a committee, and that's what maybe these 2 things are, Doug's and our recommendations. And then other perspectives, we can see what how to handle something like that. Does that sound good?
Works.
What's going on with the current city calendar software, but on the city calendar, we have a meeting in 2 weeks, which is that off Monday again. Are we going to try to do that? Or
No, it's
That's the
CML, I think. Is that
Yeah.
CML?
no, so now it's the 26th. I'm looking at the night.
Right, because I have it down as no energy need, so I think
Yeah.
we decided that, didn't we?
Oh, that's what I can't remember.
I had that down as,
Yeah, that's what I've got also.
So then we would meet them maybe to July 7th.
that could be it.
Well, yeah, Monday, the 19th is a city council meeting.
Right,
So that's not that's not when we would normally meet.
right.
What we would normally meet would be the 26th, and that's when we will be at CML. So what I have is the next meeting would be July 10th.
That's what I've got.
Okay, yeah, I was going to be really wrong, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I have that as a regular council meeting too. Am I wrong on the 10th of July?
You're wrong.
This whole thing is so sweet.
Yeah,
My map, my calendar has gotten
Yeah.
poo-poo.
yeah, we've got a July 3rd meeting. We'll actually talk about that one tonight. Is it? So it's a weird date.
Okay,
Okay,
When would you like comments back from us?
so
I mean, it sounds like you've got a little bit of time,
a
but
week or so before July, the next meeting.
thank you. I just,
I mean, that-
because I'm gonna be on
yeah,
vacation for a
that's
week.
Sure.
trying to go.
I won't touch it
betcha.
for the next 6 days.
Get it by the end of the month.
Yeah, that's more
And
than
June.
doable. Absolutely.
Sure,
That way it gives a few extra days.
sure.
Gives us time to get our red pen out.
And you got the 4th of July coming in that time period. too.
Right,
So
exactly.
Oh, that's right. That's where.
Right.
stuff is.
And we have this going to city council general government on August
Nice.
9th.
It'll be the 9th, I think.
Yep,
No?
August 9th.
9th. That seems an awful long time away.
Well, you throw that all day in there and a week at a conference, it's not gonna be that long.
Okay, that's true. I forgot about the conference. Yeah, you're right. Okay, never mind.
And we might hear about the Senate bill at the conference. Is that one of the topics they got? They've got a legislative.
Yeah, they have a legislative
But they're-
update one, yeah.
But they did include that in their end section of face, I mean, they just say.
Hmm.
Excel. what makes- Oh, so. Yeah.
I do know that they're gonna have a segment on, the future of gas. I don't know if you guys saw that. The future of gas in Colorado. I think Nick Wagner, our VP, is going to be on that panel.
Oh,
Um,
great,
So,
good.
And Nick was one of the guys that came earlier.
He did.
yes,
Yes.
He did. Okay, we got anything else then for the committee?
Just a couple of things, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First of all, I do want to, I'm glad somebody said something about TML. So this is going to be kind of a weird announcement, but we have, as you know, we serve both electric and gas, and our gas team has determined that they want to have a little bit of a reception and invite elected officials, but they're kind of restrained because it's a resort on how much space they have. So I'm giving you a little bit of a heads up. I believe that I'm just not, we electric are not going to participate on that, so don't feel excluded if you don't get an invitation
Oh.
for it. It would be one of those, it would,
We understand.
yeah, no, it would just be one of those where I, the limitations doesn't allow me to allow attendance by everybody I would like, and I would hate to exclude anybody. So there's a very good chance if you see a VHE reception, it does not have anything to do with us.
Okay,
Otherwise, you'll get an invitation.
okay,
We understand.
fair enough.
The second thing I wanted to mention to you is that on May 31st, we did file our new ECA. And it is currently it's at 0.06028 per kilowatt hour. And it's going down to 0.05158 per kilowatt hour, which is a 14.43% decrease.
What percentage?
14.43% decrease in the ECA. And that will take effect July 1.
That's been approved.
It's been filed and it says it's going to become effective, so I assume it's been, I don't know how that process looked like, but it's been vetted, like it's been filed, they've looked at it now,
Okay.
so. Yeah, so anyway, that's really good news. I was really happy to see that.
Anything else? That's it?
I think that was it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay,
Great.
I think we're adjourned and we'll see you all
See you later.
either tonight or in July.
Yeah.